Welcome to another big week, the two big guys in Grover podcast. Almost messed that up. It's so new to
How do you
me.
mess up two big guys in Grover?
I don't know. There's a great big sign right there in front of me that says it. The two big guys in Grover podcast. Another week. We are nursing a Kansas City hangover. We nursed a Super Bowl hangover once on this show, and now we're
it's because Super Bowl
Kansas
champs.
City PBR was in town.
I think it was more than just. I said this yesterday afternoon. I felt like that third day is what did it.
Yeah.
Oh, you're talking about the WCRA?
You having WCRA Friday night, and then those
it felt
2
like
days,
a big major.
It did.
Didn't
It felt like it was like, man, I am 3 days in, and I'm not used to this. But it's not like going to.
We're not traveling though. It's great that it's in our
that's
own
exactly
backyard.
what I was saying.
Yeah.
But the difference is we find ourselves, and I know everybody's on here going to be like, blah, blah. We get out of town, you get to events, whether they be PRCA, NFR, PBR finals, just start making your list. Everything but junior high and high school finals. They're the anomalies. We find ourselves where we're able to take a break in the morning and maybe relax a little bit in the room and then go fire back. Being home, it wasn't that way at all.
Yeah.
We had a
It's
full
like,
schedule.
I get to sleep in my own bed. No.
Yeah. Well, and we did something unique last week, and it's something that you're gonna hear on the podcast. We put together some conversations. It's going to be the two big guys in Grover conversation series, I guess, of this podcast. So over the weekend, we were able to have 6, 7,
Yeah, I mean, a lot
8
of our
people from the PBR or riders into the studio.
Well, and they're endorsees of ours. They're guys that we've taken care of. They've taken care of us, and it was just an opportunity to sit down and have a conversation versus talk. Just hey, let's just talk helmet, or let's just talk this, or let's talk business. It was because we have a relationship with these guys outside of the arena. Right. It gave us an opportunity to just hang with them and be like, I mean, we ordered barbecue in, and we hung out here in the office. And so when you're doing that, plus you're down for an event, and then you're back, and then you turn right back around and you're back down. It's a lot of work. But the WCRA, let's start right there.
Yeah. And we're in, and so for everybody watching, so we live in the Kansas City area. Okay, so we are in a suburb of Kansas City, which is Platte City, Tracy.
We are in the metropolis of
Camden Point.
Tracy. We are in the shopping mecca.
Yeah.
Of shopping.
We're in
Tracy.
a shopping mall, gas
Convenience
station,
store,
quick shop.
Usually, if you want to stop,
the health food
if you
shop.
want the stop of a lifetime, you should really stop by here and see what this is all about. But we are still we're about 35, 40 minutes from downtown Kansas City, where the building's at.
The way you drive, yes.
So I got everybody there safely, didn't I? But I took the family with me this week. We stayed at the host hotel just to go ahead and be downtown. And then, Friday night didn't get over until 10:37 on the dot. Congratulations to our buddy Richard Jones for the timeline that he put out, because we figured I was betting 11 o'clock. And we knocked it out at 10:37.
And there's even a pretty good break in the middle.
Yeah, a huge intermission.
Yeah.
And then, that next morning, we drove back up here, got some podcasts knocked out, and then the PBR started Saturday and Sunday. So it was a very busy weekend. But, yes, let's start with the World Champions Rodeo Alliance.
Well, and we're going to start with Cris got his first being a football coach, not being on the rodeo side. Got to be a penciler with the judges. And for those that don't know what a penciler is, sometimes you get to a rodeo and you got to give the old thumbs and fingers number signs. Not that way. With the WCRA, we actually, because there was CBS and there was Ride Pass and there was in-house, we were having to, we helped them out. We had to text and call it in over our headsets on Clearcom, and we had to punch it on the iPads.
Mm-hmm.
So it was, but Cris got an opportunity to see judging.
Just the inner workings.
The inner workings of what the judges actually do during the rodeo, because I think a lot of people don't understand that. They get mad at, and judges they're like referees.
Yeah.
If you really understood, I mean, a referee in the NBA, or I'm going to say college basketball, because we're getting ready to come into college basketball season, like the heart of it. You've got guys that are, not only are they running up and down the court, they're having to pay attention and call. One, I couldn't run up and down the court like they can.
What?
That many times
What?
and still be. But my point, yeah. I am going to have to play basketball against Webster and Stetson Lawrencetown because I opened my mouth. And so I got to do a little
Training?
yeah. That's exactly what I'm going to call it, training.
Is this like 2024?
Nope. Nope. I've already said it. I'm going to do it. I just got to figure out. I did. My partner against Webster will be Rump, though. So we got to figure that out. So it may have to happen at the NFR because that's about the only time we all have an opportunity to get together. So that gives me enough time to, like, get limbered up and – but back to the judges. Yeah. People don't understand what happens and takes place with how it scores and WCRA.
The workings behind the workings,
exactly.
what everybody sees.
And how fast it has to happen because it's got to get to the announcers so the announcers can get it out and the thought process and things. So,
well, if there's 4 judges after or during an event, 4 judges have to communicate. With today's technology, we can, right? But because there were multiple outlets and needs for feed and all that kind of stuff, it was over your communication pack,
your ClearCom,
your phone, and your pad, doing it and stuff. And because they want that, they need to put it up immediately. Score. You guys do this for a living, so.
Well, the WCRA was phenomenal. There was 9 in every rodeo event, including breakaway roping. Then that broke down to the top 3 in each event on their round 1 scores. First place was guaranteed $50,000. The tie down roping paid $100,000.
And that was a carryover from the previous event.
Right. So nobody caught in Green Bay back in June. So that $50,000 rolled over to Kansas City. Now, does that mean the guys didn't get paid? Absolutely not. If you just made the short round, you got $12,500.
It's still a good out.
But if you just showed up to the rodeo, wasn't it like $2,300?
Well, you got over. It was over $1,200. I'm not exactly sure how much, but you got a show up fee, no matter what.
Right.
So that money rolled over from there to make $100,000 in the tie down roping. Shad Mayfield wins it. Shad Mayfield, if you guys don't know, is a 19-year-old kid from Texas. His dad, Sylvester, made the national finals a couple times in the tie down roping. And I asked Shad off screen, and I said, the first time we met you was at the high school finals last summer where you won. And then on that same week, you won the California Rodeo in Salinas, and you placed in the top 5 at Cheyenne at 18 years old. Yeah. Went to the NFR. And then I asked him, I said, have you won money at every single rodeo you've went to this year? And he said, yeah, every rodeo I went to. He said, but I had to turn out a 1. And I said, well, what happened? He said, I wrecked my truck, but I didn't win any money there. So he wins $100,000 at Kansas City on Friday.
Not a lot of people can say every time they get out of the truck, they're winning.
I don't know if you
won the American semifinal the other day.
I was going to say, do you know that they had to move trucks? This is kind of an inner workings deal. They had to move trucks out of the way to get his rig out because he knew he needed to get back to Texas that fast.
There's a ton of those guys that I don't think they slept for about 3 days.
Yeah. No, they were bouncing back and forth
because it was Fort Worth, Kansas City, Fort Worth. They were going back and forth in which the American is going to play some havoc next week in the world of PBR. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. But holy cow, there's just that he could make $200,000 between Kansas City and the American. And then the other, he's like $60,000. He's like made $60,000 in the PRCA already.
But how about that? So you got a 19-year-old that wins $100,000.
And these humbles all get out
17-year-old in the breakaway roping.
Yep.
That almost won $50,000.
Yep. 100th, I think. Wasn't it wasn't it a 100 that separated the school?
Yeah, won 1,000.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, that was in the calf roping.
Yeah, Shad has won $77,000. He is
in the PRCA.
$30,000 ahead of Tough Cooper. And it's March 2nd.
So that's 170 plus.
Yeah.
Because he won 100,000 here this weekend.
And then whatever he wanted at the American semifinals.
American semifinals. That's what I was going to say.
And then the American will pay $100,000 if he wins it.
So he's pushing 200,000 the 1st of March.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
And people say rodeo, you can't make any money.
Well, I tell you what, we're proving it wrong. And one thing about the WCRA, and kudos to them, they've also have the brand new Triple Crown of Rodeo, which is if you win 3 WCRA events in a row, they'll give you $1 million bonus. Now, we all know that those $1 million bonus deals are insurance based somehow, hoping the heck it doesn't happen.
It's like the hole in one at halftime or the long shot.
Exactly.
Right?
Well, get ready because Shad Mayfield's signing some papers right now, and he could be a millionaire by the time Tacoma rolls around.
I saw like Regan Smith from
Winterset.
Winterset. he's eligible in the bronc riding.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got a handful of guys that are legitimately hands that can do this.
It was an awesome show. I mean, every event was really cool. There was tight competition in every one of them.
Yeah.
You know, so it wasn't just the roping, it wasn't just the bull riding, it wasn't just the barrels. It was like, wow.
Yeah.
Casey Dugan, when I saw Casey walk back after it was over, the sweat, like he was sweating.
Oh yeah.
He wore out a pair of shoes.
Oh my goodness, his old Justin boots were smooth.
The only place he's ever worked harder is at the PBR finals, because that is a guy when he has moved from the PBR to the WCRA now, but his event of the year was the finals. Yeah. You could trust Casey with absolutely everything. And we're not on here to kiss Casey's tush, but he could actually handle everything. But man, the blisters on that man's feet, he would lose. Oh. He'd lose.
But
20
you know
pounds
why you could trust him with everything? Because he's a rodeo kid that grew up in the industry.
Yep.
I mean, like Uncle Bob, and you go down the list of who he is and where he comes from. There's a reason Casey Dugan, and we say it a lot, talking about a group of people within the industry. There are some kids that just grew up in the industry, and he's one of them. And now he's older and he's wiser, and
definitely made for a great event. That's for
exactly.
sure.
But that's why the success of that event wasn't just because of Casey, but the hard work of those guys that understand the industry.
Casey's the first to start giving credit to everybody else. We were talking to him at the PBR visiting, and we said, "Oh man, it was a great event." He goes, "Well, we're fortunate to have so-and-so, and we're fortunate to have these people. And this group of people really stepped up. And you know what? And the contestants were really good, too. They're great to work with.
You got a 5-time world champion running the outgate.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Smets is standing there running the outgate. And so it's like everybody there. I saw Bobby Moat. Somebody said, "Who is that?" And the guy turns and says, "That's Bobby Moat, winningest bareback rider money-wise ever." And they said, why is he... And it's like, no, he understands. They love this sport as much as we do.
I do have a question, though. This is an operations question of an event like that. It's like, who would really have the wherewithal or be able to get away with depantsing the clown in the middle of the arena?
Did you see that?
I missed that.
Oh, man.
Smets depantsed Robbie.
Really?
Walking
he just
in.
went, and it went
down.
doors to the dirt.
No, luckily that
creepy
Mahomes
Uncle Robbie
jersey,
dropped him.
Luckily that Mahomes jersey covered everything.
Speaking of that, did you see him run across the
back and forth between the two people that were talking on the phone?
Did he run or waddle?
Dude, it was straight
a fast waddle.
Like he could have
broken shoulders.
He could have had a black suit on and been at the zoo the way he was running across there. It was funny.
He's something else.
Let's go PBR.
Great event. In the bull riding in the WCRA, it came down to Colton Fritzlin, Jess Lockwood, and Jose Vitor-Limi. They all three bucked off.
So that money rolls.
That money rolls over. They each got 12.5. Jose got the buckle because he was the high marked riding round number 1. But that money will roll over. So in Guthrie in May, that is going to be about a 5-day extravaganza in Guthrie. But there will be $100,000 in the bull riding. But as far as the PBR went, the Caterpillar Classic wrapped up yesterday afternoon, and Lucas Divino from Brazil got his very first win on the Unleash the Beast series, a guy that's been riding with a broken hand since December, and rides pretty stinking good with a broken hand.
And he's a good guy, too. And
not only did he ride good, but his English that he's been working on was excellent in his interview at the end.
Yeah, I thought that was great.
People they didn't expect that, and he's been waiting.
I used him as an interpreter, believe it or not, on the back of the chute.
Really? Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, us as broadcasters, and I'm kind of stepping back into the ride pass role. You get very nervous about those guys because you don't really know all the way if they do. And a lot of times you'll brush them off because you don't think they do.
Don't want to put them in that position.
And they know quite a bit of English. I interviewed Jose at the front of the show on Saturday, and his big deal was keep the questions simple and I will answer them.
Yeah. Well, and his thing is he's learning.
Yeah, he is very much
learning, but he doesn't ever want to not be able to say something. He doesn't want to not be successful.
Right.
So it's not a matter of him not knowing, because if you'll catch him like walking around or like at the house that day when they were gathering bulls and stuff, his conversations were clear.
Yeah.
It was just that he doesn't ever want to be not, he doesn't ever want to.
And it's hard to be put on camera. It's different. Everybody, a lot of guys.
Well, that's like 30 pounds of Cris.
Stutter around, yeah.
Better than the 60.
So that was who won. There were some tense moments. Jose Vitorlimi was injured in night number 1, was not able to get on in day number 2. Mason Taylor is going in for an evaluation today with
scaphoid bone.
Yeah.
We were still in the locker room
trying to decide if it's broke or if he's pulled the tendons.
Yeah, it said that the way his fingers was kind of like if you were to hold a fastball, they're kind of stuck there. They're not moving. So,
Yikes. Jess Lockwood is going in today for an MRI, possible torn hamstring. We haven't got an update from the PBR on that. So, if that happens, that's setting out a while.
So just take those right there. So if Jose's X-rays come back and he can't go,
right.
Jess got a hamstring pull. Mason's out with a hand. Stetson, Claudio,
Lucas Davino, and Allison DeSouza are all cut right now.
Lucas Davino made it though. He'll make it because
Lucas Davino again. But I'm talking about Luciano
De Castro. Yeah,
Luciano De Castro.
So that's 6 guys that were there this weekend.
Stetson Lawrence.
Changing of the guard.
Will drop out of the top 35 in the world, so they will go to
and Rubens.
Rubens is out.
Rubens broken.
Yeah, double broken jaw and some teeth. And
how do you double break a jaw? Other than when he walked by, it looked like it was triple broke. I've never seen a jaw look like that, and we're not joking. It was pretty.
He
nasty.
got caught up underneath the chin. It was.
He had a helmet on. We'll talk about it. He had a helmet on, but he got hit at the Adam's apple.
Yeah.
And he couldn't he couldn't talk, breathe, swallow. It hit him in the Adam's apple.
Yeah.
Up underneath.
Yeah. So
Jess Byrne.
Yeah, Jesse Byrne. Ooh, boy, went back
looked
to
like he had
last night.
And they don't want him out. I mean,
he looked like he had a grapefruit on the side of his face last time we got to the hotel.
Slammed him into the buck and shoot, and he's actually scheduled to go to Bangor next week and fight the Velocity Tour event, but and no doubt that he will. But
it looked rough.
Concussion city right there, I think, for him.
Because he got caught with a hoof coming down, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of slammed in the hoof. It's kind of
right.
Looked like it's just slammed him kind of against the side of the buck and shoot.
Taking one for Cole.
Taking one for Cole. He covered him up like he was
like a blanket on a
Boy
baby.
Scout fire. Covered him up and
doing exactly though what they're supposed to do. Yeah. So Mason Taylor's number 16 in the world. So he most likely, and I mean we're not doctors. We're just going to speculate. Probably won't go next week. What's the story on Dakota Butter? Anybody?
There's a handful of those guys that we talked to at Global Cup just in conversations that especially the Australians that they're just going to keep gaining points because they're having more and more events over there, and so versus come right over.
Okay,
they can hit a handful of their own country events.
Okay,
and then come over. And so I don't know how that all works. We need to have a conversation with somebody within the PBR
or
something. They
can
when
they're
explain
required
that.
to be here.
When they have to come or don't come. And
and we haven't. And of course, the day sheets for Little Rock will come out on Tuesday night, Wednesday morning.
And he may be back because I think. How do you do this weekend up there? Because they had an event in Canada this weekend. It's like a touring pro.
Oh, yeah, they did.
They did. I know they had a touring pro.
525 points out of first place in the number 20 spot in the world. Let me pull that up on.
But speaking of, so you've got 6 guys that are going to not be there that have been there on tour the last 10 weeks, 8 weeks. Mm-hmm. And so you got a changing the guard. And I haven't even looked to see who's coming up on that side.
Well, you're gonna bring in guys like Amadou Silva, who has his shoulder just popped out of socket just because I said his name. He has ground beef as a shoulder right now, and his shoulder will not stay in.
But he's mastered the pop in, pop out.
Right. Brady Sims is number 35. Lockwood's 36. Jake Lockwood's 36. Troy Wilkinson 37. He hasn't been here. Aaron Roy hasn't been here. Bradford hasn't been here. Alex Cerqueda moved up to number 40th in the world with the win on the Velocity Tour in North Charleston. So you're gonna see some guys come up. Burton Shaw hasn't. Burton Shaw's out.
He's hurt.
So
Nate's hurt right now.
But Dakota's sitting there. Look at Dakota Lewis, though. I mean, he's sitting right there, 42.
Yeah, you're gonna see some guys move up this weekend. They're gonna take 40 to Little Rock, and then the American starts on Saturday, which is gonna take out Joao,
Cole
Melanson.
Cole Melanson. And those guys will not compete on Saturday. And Derek Kobaba, yeah. So those guys will not compete on Saturday. Saturday. So what they can do is they can win the round on Friday, but they can't win the entire event. So they'll and kudos to the PBR for allowing that to happen.
It's always been that if you can go make more money somewhere else, you can go, right? And that kind of that's been a slang of it. I don't know if that's the diehard, but
you just kudos to them for not standing in guys' ways of going out and making more money and so it'll be an interesting weekend. The biggest interesting deal though will be if Jose and Jess, will they be back next week? Right. How extensive are the injuries? Like I said, they both have appointments, I believe, today. So stay tuned to pbr.com and check out everything that Flisco's writing up because I bet there'll be a press release by tonight on both of them of where things stand. So
let's go PRCA for a minute. You've got Houston's getting ready to start.
Mm-hmm.
You've got the American that's been going on. 2
rodeos that are so big that I bet they don't count all their money. And I haven't heard how it's going to all break down.
That was where I was going.
Okay.
Yeah. I nobody has said. We're here. It's now. Yeah. What's going to happen?
And I don't know how the ground rules are written. I haven't talked to anybody from the PRCA. But yeah, Rodeo Houston pays
a lot.
Still 50?
Yeah, 50
to the winner. The American will pay guaranteed $100,000 to the winners, unless you are an underdog coming in,
like the Riggin Smiths.
Yeah, if you were a top 10 in the world, you automatically got invited to the American from the year before's qualifications. That will pay $100,000. Now, if you count that $100,000 towards the world, you're probably you might be the world champion. So you can't put that much money weight. You can't put that much weighted on one single rodeo.
We need to find out how much actually.
How many guys got the call though? So on the bull riding side of the American from the PBR this year, who gets to go? I didn't even look yet.
That hits,
so it'll be Jess and Jose. Because there's 4 from there that they took in previous
for the American.
For the American itself on Sunday.
Hold on, I will tell you. It is Derek Kobaba, Claudio Montagna Jr., Joao Ricardo Vieira, Cole Melanson, Brennan Eldred, and then the underdog is Daniel Keeping.
So that's the actual list.
That is the list of the qualifiers in.
Right,
now,
but who
in the top 10
the top 10 in the bull riders.
The PRCA. In the PRCA.
Okay, that's
already in.
So,
I say that. I think that's right.
So like Jess doesn't get an invite because he won the PBR. Sage doesn't get Sage will get an invite because he was number 1 on the PRCA side.
Last year.
He
gets an automatic.
Right, but it used to be the PBR so like PRCA.
Kai Hamilton's sitting second right now.
Tell you what, you guys talk a little bit amongst yourselves, and I'll figure this out.
All right.
That's what we're giving you a little time.
I'm interested.
I know, right?
Well, and I know it's no longer a PBR production or post production, however all that stuff shook out. So I don't know where they fall. So maybe the PBR guys do have to go through the qualifiers to get there.
And of course, you go and look at the qualifiers for the American on the website, and it says qualifier information coming soon.
Yeah.
Cool. So I was just looking at the top of the PRC guys. You got Kai Hamilton sitting number 2.
Yeah, but no, it would have went on last year's world
finishing,
standings.
Right?
From
so the top 10.
From what I understand, it would have went from last year's world standings. At least that's what it did in every other event. Now, is the bull riding different? I don't know. I can't say.
I don't know either. It's
how does it affect the PBR points?
No
longer.
No,
right?
no longer.
Yeah,
it doesn't have any bearing since the separation.
The monies, but it's only a certain portion of it.
I
just don't know what.
Yeah, I don't know how much it is. There's going to be a gap there.
Well, you're looking that up. Just glancing down the PRC rankings, you look at Sage is down at 13, which we know
he's out. He's coming back though.
Yeah.
He was hoping to come back for the American.
Yeah, but I expect to be Houston. Did you see that picture of his foot she posted? Yeah. Showed my wife, and she said, unimpressed. But she's in surgery every day, so.
She not like feet?
No, she's just in surgery every day. She's like, ortho's no fun.
Oh.
Unimpressed. I'm like, well, it's pretty cool to me because it looks like metal Legos.
Oh, man.
Is what it looked like.
So Stetson Wright. Right? Because where he finished at the NFR.
Pause. Brady, you're going to have to cut that right there. Turn that heater off. It's coming through your deal. I just heard it again.
Did it just kick on, or has it been on?
It just kicked on.
All right. So we'll pause that and then come back.
Yeah.
Okay.
So start back with Stetson Wright.
Got him.
Got him.
Okay.
Got him. Okay.
So you can start
Also
back
includes Dalen Swearingen.
Oh, it does include Dalen?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So you want to clap, clap, clap.
Good, it's gone. I could hear it coming right through your deal. It was like, shh.
It should still be lined up.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. You'll just cut it out.
Wait, did you stop?
No, I'm still recording, so then you can cut it easier.
All right. Killer.
So you can start back in. And even with Stetson Wright, Stetson Wright.
All right. So just looking at the PRCA rankings still, you think like Stetson Wright? you
Yeah.
know, who is down a little bit in the rankings. It's still pretty early. We obviously know that. But because
it's
of
top
his
10
finish-
after the NFR. I mean,
Okay,
Yeah, and actually, I just found the list. So Kimsey, who I would say is very questionable.
yeah, I mean, he was thinking it. Social media. I haven't texted him. Chris hasn't texted him and said, hey, but as of social media the other day, it said preparing for Houston. It didn't say preparing for the American. It said preparing for Houston.
Right.
Because he could be in the latter rounds of Houston. I mean, depending on what series he's in down there, because it's, I mean, before they get to the Super Series and all that stuff. So he may still be a week out. So that's another week of healing.
Yeah. Well, and he might ride. I'm trying to think when Houston starts this weekend. I just don't know if it starts on Thursday or if it starts
Friday,
on Friday.
I thought.
Okay, so Friday would be over top of the first round of the American. No, first round of the American would be Saturday. So, yeah, I don't know.
Donnie might be
There's-
finding back and forth too.
There's a lot going on, but Sage Kimsey, Boudreaux Campbell, Stetson Lawrence, Tyler Bingham, Jordan Hansen.
Stetson Lawrence or Stetson Wright?
I said Stetson Wright.
Okay.
Jordan Hansen, Jordan Spears, Kobe Radley, Trey Benton III, Dalen Swearingen. So that will be another name that will be out of Saturday Night in Little Rock, and Garrett Smith.
So the
it
top 10
was
from over there.
The top 10 from the PRCA.
And then the PBR guys had to qualify
You had to
in.
qualify in.
Okay.
Yep.
So just to kind of to hit the distinction on that, you know, to be eligible for the million, sharing the million, the first
You
time,
have to go through the qualifiers.
You
have to be a
It can't
qualifier.
be an automatic.
Right.
bid,
Right.
Automatic is only the 100,000.
The 100,000.
Okay.
But a couple years ago, Sage went through the qualifier.
Right.
He didn't just take his exemption because he took
And
both
won
and won.
333
Yeah.
because there are three
Right.
of them that split that million, right?
Right.
But that was a year where that event was totally PBR produced. It was not a
Right, but-
PRCA rodeo, and the bull riders, the seeded bull riders came from the top 10 in the PBR.
Right. But you could come through the qualifier like Sage did.
Yeah.
And he did.
Because you're right. He had to come through the
Yeah,
qualifier
he
because
came
was
through
not
the
an
qualifier.
automatic
Right.
invite of
Right.
at that time of a PRCA world champ or anything like that. So yeah, a lot of confusion is going to happen this week. I mean, and that's just, you have a rodeo of that size, of that magnitude, of all of the things that go into it. There's a lot of things going
It's
on
great
this
that
week.
there's those types of events, even if they're kind of getting over the top of each other, that there's that many opportunities. I'm going to reflect a little bit to Friday night. Some of those interviews with some of the contestants at the WCRA, right? Almost to a T, every one of them, the first thing they said was, man, we are so thankful for events like this.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
And I think
But you
everybody
take
stepped
somebody
up.
like Chet Johnson, the one the bronc riding.
Mm-hmm.
How many times has he competed in a rodeo that paid $50,000?
Oh,
Not
like never?
Well, no, I'm saying that you were a guaranteed check of $50,000.
Never.
I mean, outside. Well, I mean, he maybe Calgary a few times.
Calgary and Houston. I mean, he's made the short round at Houston.
Right, but my point is to come back and only go against 3 for $50,000, clean slate that thing. That doesn't happen.
And how long ago had it been since he qualified for the NFR?
A long time.
It's been like 7 years of not being at the NFR.
Right.
So there's enough events like that for that to happen.
And he doesn't have to go. I mean, Chet's getting older. You know, Chet doesn't want to go as hard as a lot
he
of those
40?
guys do.
He's older than that, I think.
But he's still got it. And like I said, you know, kind of any of us could have it for
He's not as good as he
3 or 4 times.
I'm
Ain't as good as I once
was.
Ain't as good as I once was, but I'm as good once as I ever was.
Yeah.
Yeah. And but
That's not the case with you, though.
But he's kind of that guy
That's not the case with you.
that I could make it.
That you're not as good now as you were then.
Oh no, I get better with time.
Oh my gosh.
The more gray they get, the
Dude,
more,
you're like a
the more
you're-
gray I get, the smoother.
You're more like a
it
box of wine, not a bottle of wine.
is. Fermenting from the bottom.
Exactly.
Fermenting from the bottom.
Boone's Farm, Boone, whatever that was.
That just shows you people out there listen to us. Download Ride Pass. Don't miss this
Check it all out.
stuff that's going on.
Not just Ride Pass. You got Cowboy
And you
Channel,
got the
Ride
Cowboy
Pass.
Channel.
I mean,
I'm gonna be a little partial to Ride Pass.
I know
right
you are,
now.
but here's the thing: if you love the sport, if you love what we're talking about, if you love Western sports as a whole,
Check it out.
man,
it's readily available every
Yeah.
single day. My DVR right now is almost full because if it says rodeo or bull riding on it, it's automatically recording it, and there is so much now
Well, that's twofold, right?
that I literally have to shut it off when I walk in the house to do something else. There's so much Western
But
sports.
that's twofold because you have Statler who wants to watch
check out every single
performance.
minute of it. That's awesome.
Speaking of that, Statler and Cade and our kids and things, we're going to have to touch base with a couple of the BFO guys. Is they're starting to kick off their NASCAR series pretty quick. We need to call Luke or Ferg or somebody and have that conversation of, because I think that is a huge addition to Western sports that's been overlooked. And it really is.
Yeah, have them on kind of explain it. To
another
everyone,
area for guys to go from zero to hero, or vice versa, because there's been some heroes that have gone back to zero in that group. And not just that group, but I mean even shorties or however you want to look at it. Bullfighting in general, sport.
So you just hit on something. What is the status of the AF? The
AFB?
American- Yeah.
I don't know.
Still,
I think they're only having a
It's gonna be a
handful of.
standalone.
still very much in business.
Yeah,
Still,
it's-
but it becomes a standalone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I haven't seen how many events they're going to have. I don't know how many they're going to have in conjunction with PBRs, but yeah, there's
Just a
still.
guesstimate. What do you think BFO does a year? 10?
Oh, no.
Events? No.
Yeah, I bet they got
Constant, right?
40.
I think he's.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they told when I saw him in Vegas, he was saying that their goal was 50 this year, which is huge.
Yeah, and yeah, like we said, we'll try to have Luke on
That'd be kind of
or
add them.
somebody because and let me tell you what, when you go to Las Vegas for the NFR, other than going to the NFR at night, there is not a better show and production to take at least one day out of your week and go see it at the Tropicana inside of a tent is the BFO finals. Holy smokes. I mean, from the lights to the bulls to every aspect of what those guys are doing.
They're putting it on.
And I've always said that, Luke Kaufman's a genius that doesn't shave and starch his pants. But
Weighs 160,
holy
wears
cow.
an XL.
It's amazing what those guys do. And he's getting better. He's starting to button down his collars now.
Is he?
I'm trying.
You
to
and
help
Richard have been
Trying to help
pounding on him, have you?
him. He's not a
Peer pressure.
and he's wearing listen, Benny Butler ain't got nothing on that guy because he's wearing polyester pants now. Every event.
Really?
He's got a couple pairs of polyester Wranglers. Wears a nice shirt and a suit coat.
For real?
For real.
Good for
real.
him.
Just throwing it back, is that the deal?
I have no idea, but it fits it but it's totally
It
Luke.
works, right? That works for Luke.
It's totally Luke.
That works for Luke.
Man.
And like I said, someday soon we'll have him on here to defend himself. Because
Well, you're gonna
well, there'll be a
there's
beat
no,
down.
There's no defending. When you throw on polyester, that's a whole nother game.
I mean, when you throw on polyester, you're like, hey, look at me.
That's right.
Because you can't help but look at him when he has polyester.
The
pants
glare,
on.
the sheen, the sheen off the
That's kind
poly.
of like the Canadian tuxedo that Richard
Hey.
Jones wears.
Yeah.
Everybody always says, man, Richard's denim on denim. He
Yeah.
sure is.
Rich is
But
But I'll tell you what, this last weekend with Richard Jones,
he knocked it.
I will say this, and I will stick a flag on the ground somewhere on top of a mountain. In all my years of rodeo, to stand back and to listen to him manipulate the crowd with music was pretty impressive.
timing.
yeah.
Because we talk about music is a huge part of rodeo. I can remember back when we had big band, when we had and I remember when Jerome first brought around, when we first had one there with us, and all of us, and Kate was running it, and we would see the
By
machine.
big man, you mean big band?
big band.
Yeah, like a band, like with
yeah,
horns.
we had a
and
big band.
horns, and I mean, you had
But JC's Rodeo in Kansas City
Obviously,
was,
I haven't been around that
Yeah.
long.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm
Manhattan,
still.
Kansas
That's
had
why
a
I'm
live
asking.
band.
yeah, we had a live band like in the upper rafter of the JC's Rodeo here in Kansas City for 10 performances.
Like a conductor, every time they got the
Yep.
nod,
The
he'd be like,
American roll.
"Da-da-da-da-da-da-da."
Exactly, the American roll. I mean, it was the snare drum during the calf rope, and that's how. And it was every time, every guy. Yeah. So for those that don't know,
I worked with
that's
an organ player a lot.
Yeah, we had one too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Really?
all the time.
Yeah.
She would set her organ up. We had the organ for the national anthem. We had the organ for the barrel racing. I mean, it was just
There was no lead-in music.
ever.
You didn't have any. I mean,
Yeah.
like, there was a rodeo out in Western Kansas I used to do, where they had this big catwalk out in front, and I would literally sit out there on a stool, have my feet up, and it was like
That's how you
it was
call
like
it.
the old days of Cheyenne. I mean, it was just like you just slow talked them, and
Yeah.
Is
there
it
was
technology
nothing.
that kind of moved all that out?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. But yeah, and kudos to Matt West, Clint Atkins, Richard Jones, Dan Hickman, everybody up there in front of house during the 15-15 on Saturday night. Just gets down on his bull, gets a re-ride, comes back on his second one, slides down. Bull beats him up in the buck and shoots. They have to pull him out. He's hurt. Literally is laying on the back of the buck and shoots, and nobody said a word.
Nope.
Richard started this slow music coming in, and the cameras were fixed on Jess, and all of a sudden you see him stumble back to his feet, regain everything, puts his helmet on, and Matt West starts talking. And
It was all WWE.
but it was so awesome. And let me tell you,
Right in Matt's wheelhouse.
everybody in the Sprint Center got on their feet because they were like, "Holy crap! Nobody does that."
Mm-hmm.
You know, and when I talked to Jess the next day in the opening for Ride Pass, I said, nobody would have blamed you if you would have just got your stuff and walked out of the arena. I mean, nobody at all would have blamed you. But that's not the Cowboy way. Right. We're not going to do that. You're not going to take one of our players off the field.
Because JB didn't, Austin Meyer didn't.
Exactly. Yeah. As soon as you do it
McBride.
after watching all of those guys before you,
Yeah.
you know, it's a pride thing, of course, but it's also just a Cowboy thing.
I want to go back to the music, though. You now have a changing of the guard that's happened. You've got guys now that mix music that play to the sport to a whole nother level. I mean, they really, really do. This weekend, with Richard behind the music, he played to the crowd more than I've heard a music guy play to a crowd. And
Took a little off Flint.
Maybe ever.
He took a little off
He took
Flint.
a little off of everybody,
Right. So
though.
it just made it.
His
just
ability
lots
to
of positive feedback, that's for sure.
play music at the right time and the right song and not be the same songs that we hear over and over.
I've always said this about Richard Jones. I think Richard Jones reads a crowd better than anybody that I've ever worked with.
No argument.
He can look around and he can go, "We don't have them. I'm going to bring you some stuff because you need to build the next guy." And I'll look at him and go, "I've never heard of the next guy." And he'll go, "Well, we lost the crowd. We're going to build the next guy." You know, or like now what they're doing during intermission. Right before we bring him back, Richard works on playing dang near every sing-along song that he has. But what's he doing there? He's not trying to pander to the crowd. He's not trying to make that, not trying to pander that deal, but trying to get those people to where they need to be.
Attentive.
Well, they're re-engaged.
I think that would be a great podcast, having Richard Jones and Brad Narducci on together.
That would be like a extra.
Okay, so we would have to put
be
double
pretty witty.
XL.
we would have to put Brad in the middle, and then you and Richard on the outsides because we'd have to weigh this thing out.
The big guy, little.
Yeah.
It would be
little guy, big guy.
it would be a battle of wits for the ages.
That might be like a twice as long too, because you're never going to squeeze those.
That's
guys,
a 3-part series.
those guys and us into.
3-part series, or you mean because it's just gonna be that good, or it's gonna be that
It'll be
big?
that
I think it's
good
going to be that good.
Oh,
and that big.
yeah. I would agree. You know what? People don't understand, and we talk about these guys because they're our friends and family, because that's rodeo. But there is a changing of the guard in rodeo that happens about every, I'm gonna say 10 years. You start to see the older guys start to retire and slow down. Then you have a new crop come in, just like in any other sport. But On the personnel side, it's different.
Mm-hmm.
Personnel doesn't really change around every 10 years like the competitor. I'm talking about competitors changing about every 10 years.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen on the personnel side. I mean, I cannot tell you how many times I went to a rodeo and saw Leon and Vicky
For
Adams
good and bad.
do their specialty act.
You know,
For 30 years, I watched their specialty act.
Yeah.
We talked about the losing of Liesl Harris. Liesl Harris has been around forever because he was good. And so that it's harder to hear, harder to see those other acts, the personnel, the announcers, the sound guys, the sound is a newer thing. Was we're just talking about sound. It's becoming more and more prominent in rodeo.
The music
is the music director position.
Yeah.
And so to see the newer guys come about, guys that have been in the industry in other positions are finding way. You know, I see where Ryan Litwin is a rodeo clown that's a great music director, and you see Ryan all over the board.
Yep.
You know, he's running music. Jesse Knudson's the same thing. You see Jess can announce rodeos. He hosts Rump's show at the Orleans during the NFR.
Yep.
But ultimately, he's a heck of a music director. We used to use him way back when, and now it's just
Now Narducci.
Yeah, now Narducci. Exactly.
Brad was the music guy for the YBR about 7 years ago.
Yeah.
And it was like, and at the time, because being new into this industry, at that time we were, you know, it was like, met him, talk with him, you know, laugh my ass off, you know, because he's so dang witty. And then lo and behold, he's like,
Yeah.
because he was good. I mean,
that
he
was
was
the
just,
year
he
that
was good then
because
too.
Casey Deerdorf had done it in the past.
Yes.
And Casey gotten sick or was away or something, so he had Brad come down and work for him.
Actually, Casey was there.
Was he there too? Okay.
Yep, Casey was there too.
I remember that in passing. But this last weekend, you had Casey and Brad, right?
Yeah, at the American.
At the American. So I bet they killed it.
I bet they did too.
And you take, you know, just something for anybody else out there listening that wants to do, whether you want to be an announcer, whether you want to be a music director, whatever it is. If you don't work at it, you're not going to get any better. Like Brad tells me, and I absolutely believe him. He has a room in his house that is his office, and he has a TV screen in there, and he always has 2 computers set up. One of those computers plays either Ride Pass, or he hits a DVR on a PBR or a rodeo. He puts on his headphones and he mixes that event. He turns the volume down and he mixes it and he tries. That's what I did when I started announcing. I figured out a way, hey, okay, I'm going to put this old NFR in and I'm going to announce that thing. And I'm going to learn, I'm going to try, I'm going to be better. And you have to do that. If you're not honing in your skills, like I've said with music directors, everybody has the same music. We all have the same amount of words. God gave us a vocabulary to use words, but it's how you use them that's going to set you apart from the rest of the crowd. You know, Matt and I talk about it, and Matt kind of, you know, I'm more of a stats guy than Matt West, but Matt tells a story, but I tell a story. We all tell stories differently, and it depends on who's watching, who's listening, whether they like the way I tell a story or not. The same deal with music, you know, and
well, Hambone's been the same way. I mean, Hambone's been like very rocking.
Yep.
That's the whole rock star. Hambone was studying the craft at the same time,
and those guys work at it.
Yeah,
and I because I know they do. I know Hambone works at it. I know Jill works at it. I know Jill works at it. I know Mark Evans works at it. I know Brad and Richard work at it. And then you've got guys that are just like, well, I want a shot at that. You know, we get calls all the time. Well, I'd sure like doing those PBRs.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's awesome. I'll put your name on the big list with everybody else. And, you know, but I worked my butt off to get to that situation. And Brad has worked his butt off to get to that situation. And, you know.
But the same thing can be said on the PRCA side. I mean, because you got rodeos like a Houston, a San Antonio, and I mean, those huge rodeos, San Angelo, Fort Worth.
Yep.
I mean, as a music director, that's a position that's evolved. And now these guys are capitalizing on it, and it's awesome.
And they're all a little bit different. So,
and the thing is, most of them were not really ever true competitors.
No. Yeah, no.
I mean, they know the sport. They understand the sport. I mean, Jill's a little different because she grew up in the rodeo industry.
Right.
So her timing has always been impeccable because she knew the sport. Like, she understood how things are supposed to work and things like that.
Well, and one thing we're doing on this podcast is a conversation series where a lot of times it's just us 3 talking throughout the podcast, but we had an opportunity over the weekend to bring in some bull riders, some insiders, some people from outside of the industry that have ties to the industry, and that's something we're going to continue to try to do with some phone calls to guys that are on the contract personnel side of things and other riders and stock contractors, and try to get more into that. So that's something to stay tuned on our social media platforms and on YouTube as we start to drop those podcasts throughout the next couple weeks.
And that's, you can go on Google, you can go on Facebook, you can go on YouTube, subscribe there.
Starting a new Facebook, Instagram,
Twitter. You can go to any of the social media handles and grab
just search
Two Big
now.
Guys in Grover.
Yeah, just search now for the Two Big Guys.
Two Big Guys in Grover. And I mean, there's some other Two Big Guy stuff out there, but make sure it says Two Big Guys in Grover. You'll see it because it's two big guys and a little skinny guy. But yeah, I mean, like, listen, there's going to be a one that we're getting ready to drop with Mike from PBR Bars that is just to understand
what they do, what's happening there.
Yeah,
it's
how
pretty
cool
live.
is it? Because how cool is it? Because you can walk down the street. You happens to do a lot. I mean, then we can wrap this up. But when you walk through the airport and you've got your cowboy hat on, you get stopped a lot. People will be like, "Hey, where are you going? What are you doing?" Because people they still to this day love a cowboy and a cowboy hat.
Yep.
And so for like Mike to have these bars in areas that are not cowboy,
Atlanta, Baltimore, Norfolk,
Virginia, where you can go in and get a little bit of the cowboy culture.
Yep.
How cool is that for us in the Western sports world to know that there are places out there that we can still say, hey, you know what? You can go to that. And not just because it's PBR, but because those guys, they have built a culture around what they're doing and say, hey, go check out the PBR Big Sky. Go check out PBR Bar here.
I think it's cool how, again, honors people.
Yeah.
Listen
to that series. Listen to that quick podcast because it is
Freedom Friday is the whole. That's
to stop what you're doing to salute those guys at midnight on a Friday night. Doesn't just have to be military.
There's a lot of great things coming up on this podcast. We're excited about it. We want you to please share us. If you listen, you like us.
Don't like us,
even if you don't like us, just keep sharing it.
Hey, if you don't like all of us, if you don't like Cody,
if there's if you just have a problem with Cris, then still add us. And then in turn, if there's something that you want to hear about,
hit us up.
Tell us. We're going to try to do. We'll do some podcasts here pretty soon where Cody will tell his story. I'll tell my story. Cris will tell his story because we haven't really dove into that. Yes, it needs to be G-rated because
we've been doing some other podcasts and they
carries over.
Well, they allowed us to be a little more open with our words, and Cris I had to stop him because it got so foul.
Which for you fans, that's one thing we're going to try very hard to do is to not keep it pretty G-rated on this.
We're about information.
Well, we have a lot of
we're about information, education. We love to bring people inside and outside the industry here to share.
Speaking of that, real fast, real quick one, and then we can wrap up.
Okay.
The Junior American, Junior PRCA.
Yeah.
We had a bunch of our guys. I say our guys because those little guys work their butts off too. And
that's going to be awesome.
Whether they wear our helmet on the 100X side and they are directly in relationship to us, or if they've just bought a helmet and they wear it, they're still our guys. And I want those guys to know that. That we get parents say, well, you guys are only out there for the guys that are on PBR and PRCA.
No.
Absolutely not. We spend more time in our week taking care of those guys. And this last week, we had a bunch of them down there. We got videos and pictures, and we appreciate that, you guys. Keep sending them to us. We'll keep doing everything we can for you guys too.
Yep.
But congrats to all those kids because how awesome is it to get to go to AT&T Stadium and to get to compete?
Yeah. And we're looking forward to have some of those guys on for our conversations.
Yeah.
And bring them
and that's
in
why it's G-rated.
Yeah. Absolutely, because that's who we are.
Yeah, so absolutely. Big week in Western sports. The American at AT&T Stadium. You can find that on the Cowboy Channel. Little Rock, Arkansas, the next stop on the Unleash the Beast series starts. It's a Friday night, Saturday night on Ride Pass and CBS Sports Network. Bangor, Maine on the PBR Pendleton Whiskey Velocity Tour. That is a 3-day event, the Lobster Classic. That's not really the name, but that's what I like to call it. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I will be in Little Rock, and I don't think there's probably good lobster in Little Rock.
You know what?
But I get to take my kids with me. Yeah. It's going to be awesome. We get 2 weekends in a row where the family gets to go with me to an event.
Well, holler at Chase. He probably knows where some good seafood.
Actually, we ate some barbecue down there a couple years ago that was excellent.
There is a great barbecue restaurant in the River Market down there.
That's where we were.
Amazing. Probably as close to barbecued nachos as your family used to make. I do believe Chase Outlaw will be in Little Rock next week. I heard he's coming to do.
I heard he's doing promos. Yeah.
So we will. I will try to catch an interview with Chase.
Good. Unleash the little beast.
And we
Unleash
will
the
see,
beast.
We will see what the beast says about when he's coming back. Because we don't really know. I have heard June.
You know what? He was running through the locker room, Global Cup, with his arms up in the air. He's like, I think I can get on tonight. And we're like, no, you get out of here.
Look at this.
Yeah.
And okay, so June, man, we just keep going.
I know. You just can't end
but
it.
okay, if he comes back in June, we'll talk about this next time on the podcast. Chad Berger has an unbelievable bull riding series this week or this summer with $100,000 to the champion.
Well, in those points from there, a guy can technically, if a guy was to go up there and sweep that, he has a real opportunity to make in the world finals.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just through those events.
Yeah, and it's places like Deadwood, Bismarck, Benford, Kalispell, Montana. Unbelievable.
I think the tour.
That'd be another good one too to call Chad and
Chase.
Get him on there. We miss Chase. We miss Chase. We miss JB.
Absolutely.
It's not the same without having that dynamic in the locker room.
Agree.
Of the unknown.
All right. Till next time.
Thank you guys for joining us.
No closing thoughts because we're going to keep going. So here we are. We're in, we're out.
We'll see you on the next one.
All right.